In our project, as I mentioned in the previous lectures, we already got some views. And we'll leave that exactly in the state it is. We got that views folder with all our templates inside of them. Now what's missing is a folder for the controllers and the controllers themselves and for the models. Right now that is all mixed into our route files or into our route functions here. The way we route won't change. We use the router and we have such a middleware function. But actually the logic that is executed here, that is the typical controller logic. We're interacting with our data, even though that's just one line here, but still. And we're then returning a view. And that's exactly this in-between logic that makes up a controller. So therefore you could of course say, well, we already got controllers. These two files hold our controller logic. And you would be right. But especially as our application grows, if you put everything into your route files, this can quickly become a very big file, and therefore separating this into separate files can be a good idea, because you can then quickly see which routes you have, and if you want to see the code which executes per route, you simply go into the respective controller file and function. So therefore, let's create a new folder here, and let's name it controllers, like this. Now in that controllers folder, I will create controllers for the functionalities I have. Now you can have a one-to-one mapping between your route file names and route file number and your controller files. But you can also split this differently. Maybe you want to group your routes by a prefix, like here, these are all our admin routes. But the thing you execute there might fit to different controllers. Let's say you have admin routes which allow you to change your admin user profile and products. You might have all these routes in the admin.js file in the routes folder, but you do have two different controllers, the users controller or admin controller and the product controller. So this is up to you. And I will indeed create different files here. I'll have my product.js file or products.js for my product related logic. And I will put all the product logic in there. So even my shop route here, where I also work with products, I'll put that logic in here because all logic I have in my app thus far, and this will change later, but all logic thus far is related to products. And therefore I want to have it in a controller that only works with product logic. And if I later add some user logic, that will go into a user controller. And maybe we even split the product controller into a user product and a admin product controller. But for now, we'll leave it like this. So in that products.js file in the controllers folder, I now want to add that code here, basically. So this middleware function we're executing here, this code for add product, right, where I just rendered this add product route, this can now go into there. The question just is how, because this would be incorrect. Well, in the end, we want to link to this function, and we want to link there from inside our route. So here we basically want to add a link to this controller function here. So therefore, what do we need to do? We need to export this function in the product controller file. And we can do this, and we'll have multiple exports, by using exports and then any name of our choice. Remember, with this syntax, we can have multiple exports in one file easily. So here I will now export my get add product function here. And the name is up to you, but I name it like this because in the end, this is what we do. We get the add product page. Of course, you could also name it get add product page here, but I will just describe what this in the end helps me do, and it helps me get everything I need to add a product. But you can name this to your likings. So now I get this product, and I still have my function which receives the request object, even though we're not using it here, but we still get that. The response object, which we are using, and next. Because this still is a normal middleware function Express.js understands, because I will now import getAddProduct into my admin.js file and still using here on my route. This will not change. I just split my code differently. So with that, let's add an import. By the way, we can get rid of this root dir import because I'm not using that utility anymore. You can therefore also delete the entire file or even folder, but that's just a side note. So let's now import our controller. And there I will import products controller by requiring my controllers folder and there the products file. So since I'm doing this from inside my admin.js file here, I need to go up one level until I'm in the root project folder, and then I go into the controllers folder, and then I pick that products file. So now products controller bundles all the exported functions. And right now this is only one, of course, but it will become more. So back in admin.js, here on this route where I want to use that, I can now simply say products controller dot get add product. And we don't execute this function, so please don't add these parentheses. Instead, we just pass a reference to this function. So we're just saying, or we're just telling Express, the Express router, that it should take this function and store it, and whenever a request reaches this route, it should go ahead and execute it. Now we can repeat this for adding a new product. I'll cut this code and go to my product controller and simply add a brand new export. And I'll name this post add product, because this is what I do here. I post a new product, I add the product therefore through a post route. And this will be the function I just copied. Now the problem here is that we refer to products, which is of course something we don't have in that file yet. So I should also go into admin.js and take my products array, which I have there, cut it out of there, and then in products.js in the controllers file, I will add this array. And we'll change this later too, but for now, let's simply add it here. Products should be our empty array. Now back in admin.js, we can now also use our new products controller function we just added, post add product, in exactly the same way we used get add product. And of course, we can now tweak our exports here. We no longer need to export products in our admin.js file because we no longer have that array in here. So instead, I'll just export my router again as I'm doing it in the shop.js file. So with module exports equal to router, that is what we have here too. And this just means that we now have to adjust the app.js file where we are importing this. There, I'm importing admin data. Now, a more fitting name is admin routes again, because now we just export routes and nothing else. And of course, that also means that here, where we use that, we just use admin routes, because we changed that export. Okay, good. So we got this set up. Now, let's also do the same for shop.js. There, I also get a function which is related to products. So let's cut it. And in products.js here, I will add a new export. Exports get products. Like this. If I do this, I have my function here, which will in the end return or render that page with my products. And one important note, obviously, products is now an array which is available in that file, so products here doesn't have to be extracted from anywhere. And again, we will change this. So this is now my finished products controller. In shop.js, we can now remove these two imports because we don't need them anymore. And instead, I import my products controller by requiring it from the same path as in the admin.js file. And here, for this get route, I will simply say products controller get products. With all that, let's save this and see if it still works. If I reload this page, this all seems to work. And if I add my first book here, this also works. So it's still working as before, but now we're using a controller. Now, let's see what else we can do here.